Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm Keith Downey, your host, and today very excited to introduce and be joined by Joseph Rui, a New Orleans native and second-generation Sicilian American with a deep love for a beautiful Catholic tradition, the St. Joseph altar. And if you've ever seen those stunning displays of food and devotion around today, St. Joseph's Day, you know there's a rich story there. And Joseph has brought that story to life in his new book, Giovanni and the Fava Beans, the story of the St. Joseph altar. It's so cool. But Joseph, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keith. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So Joseph, real quick, let's start off with kind of the tradition that's so close to your heart. For those who might not know, can you tell us what the St. Joseph altar is, how it all began, and why it's so special to Italian Catholics?
Sure. So there's a story that's been passed down for generations that in Sicily in the Middle Ages, there was a severe drought which turned into a famine. And because the crops failed, the food was very scarce. So the citizens prayed to their patron, Saint Joseph, to ask for his intercession and the drought. And so once their prayers were answered, the rains came, and the crops grew again. They erected a big altar in thanksgiving to God and to Saint Joseph, and they placed their crops on the altar, and they had a big feast, and they shared their food with those who didn't have any. And a parallel story is during the famine, the only food that they had to eat was fava beans, which is normally what they fed the animals. But they had these fava beans to sustain them through the drought and famine. And so a featured item on the St. Joseph altar is a fava bean to remind people that God always provides. And so this began.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this began a tradition that's been carried on for every year since then.
So what are some of your earliest memories of the St. Joseph altar?
So we had a very large one just a few blocks from our house that we would go to every year. It was put on by the Sisters of St. Joseph. And I can just remember tables upon tables of beautifully decorated cookies and breads made into different shapes, like a cross, a shepherd's staff, a donkey, and it was just a feast for the eyes, seeing all this beautiful food, and there were flowers and statues, and then of course at the end of the altar they gave you a goodie bag that had some cookies in it and a piece of bread and a blessed fava bean. So that was always my favorite part as a kid, is getting that goodie bag at the end.
I'm slightly envious because I didn't grow up with this tradition, and you got goodie bags with cookies. Slightly jealous, but just kidding. So this tradition clearly means a lot to you because you've turned this into a children's book, Giovanni and the Fava Beans. So what was it that made you decide to share this, the St. Joseph altar story with younger readers in this way?
So I've always had a devotion to St. Joseph from a very young age, and I look forward to St. Joseph's Day each year. And then I realized, so especially after I moved away from New Orleans following Hurricane Katrina, I moved to Texas, where I met my wife, and so that's where I ended up staying. But I realized that this is such a great tradition, but it's not as well known as many other Catholic traditions. And so I wanted to offer a way to introduce this to a wider audience. And it started really with the desire to pass it on to my own children. And from there, it grew. And I realized that there are a lot of other people out there who don't know about this tradition. And it's another gem in our Catholic treasure box that I think people can really get something out of and grow closer to St. Joseph and ultimately grow closer to God.
Yeah, well said. So, I mean, the book itself, I mean, crafting a story but crafting a story for kids is no small feat. So how did you approach making the St. Joseph altar accessible, but also fun for children while keeping its spiritual depth?
Right. Well, it took a long time. I will say that. I worked on the story for maybe 10 years,
Wow.
trying to get it just right. And I went through various iterations of. My kids have heard various versions of it over the years, and I got input from them, input from others, and prayed about it a lot, and asked for St. Joseph's intercession, and just. It was a gradual process, but I really want. One of the things I really wanted to do is I didn't want it to just be a story focused on the altar and talking about what the altar is and what it means, but I wanted it to be a good story independent of that, so that even if you never go to a St. Joseph altar or never put one on, you can still enjoy the book and get something out of it.
Yeah. So for those listening out there that are just now discovering this amazing tradition, how would you, I guess, what would you recommend if someone who wants to do this, start their own tradition of the St. Joseph altar?
Sure. Well, if you get the book, there's a page in the back that tells you how to put on a St. Joseph altar. And it can be very simple. And sure, there are some very elaborate ones that take up a whole room, but there are also some very humble ones in private homes where it's just a table, and typically the altar has 3 levels representing the Trinity. So you can just get a table, maybe a smaller table on top of that, maybe a small box, and put a statue of St. Joseph on the top, and you don't need a lot. You can put some cookies on there, you can put some breads, statues and flowers, and that's really all you need to do. And,
that's great that you have it. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, wait, and one vital part of the tradition is that the food is given to the poor. And so what we do when we have an altar in our home, we will identify people, whether it's maybe it's a food pantry, or maybe it's somebody that's recovering from surgery, or someone who just had a baby, or someone who just is in need, and so we identify that ahead of time, and then we bring the food to them. And you can also ask your guest, if you're having it in your home, to bring food or donations to the cause.
That's awesome. I'm still learning much about the altar of St. Joseph, but it's incredible that you're essentially building this table up and then you're giving it to the poor. That's right. So cool. So the book itself, obviously the story is very important, but so is the artwork, because that's what's grabbing the children's attention initially. What's it like to find someone's like an artist, and then making sure that it jives well with the story?
Well, it took a long time. Was willing and able to do the project, and once I found Jacqueline Warren, the illustrator, it was a great fit. I love her artwork, and we talked about my ideas, and she read the story, but then I basically let her do her thing, and
Your book is being praised by a lot of big names like Father Donald Calloway. Are there any more stories or projects on the horizon that you'd like to share?
Well, there are some things that I'm working on.
Okay.
I can't really share any more than that, other than to say that, yeah, stay tuned, and hopefully there will be something coming out here. Hopefully it won't take me 10 years on this next one.
Well, hey, you can't rush artwork. That's what I like to say. You can't rush arts. Right. And you've done an incredible job with your book, Giovanni. And man, it's such a great book for children. And for those out there that are looking to get this book, aside from playing our Catholic trivia, as far as I'm aware, it's from Word on Fire. They can go to Word on Fire and purchase the book. Would that be correct there, Joseph?
That's right. Wordonfire.org, and you can buy the book directly from the publisher.
Awesome. Well, the link is in our show notes for those that are listening. But can't thank you enough for Joseph for joining us on, of course, the feast day of St. Joseph. Really appreciate what you do and all the work that you've done. And make sure to visit the Word on Fire website to check more about Giovanni and the Fava Beans. But thanks again, Joseph. And that is it for Morning Joy, where truth matters. Now, there's a couple of paths we can take today. As every day we do Morning Joy. If you're listening directly on the radio right now, and you're going to be listening to the Holy Mass coming up next, please pray for us and our guest, and we will continue to pray for you. Otherwise, hang tight. We're about to transition on over to our after show clubhouse. So if you're listening on the radio, make sure to grab your smartphone or hop on the computer, go to YouTube, Rumble, or any of the social media sites out there and search GRN Online or Morning Joy Radio. Either way, it's a great time for us to debrief from today's show in a more relaxed manner. And best of all, and we've got a lot of great feedback, we get to hang out with you. So it's all interactive, all on social media only. But if this is us parting ways for the day, we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Eastern. But if this is it, God bless and make it a joyful day. We'll see you.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.